Hi, I'm Dr. Dan Monti, and today we're going to talk about detox. Now, this is a buzzword, but it's important because the body is always trying to clean itself, so to speak, or rid itself of toxins. Today we're going to talk to a top detox expert and review 8 simple principles for reducing the amount of toxins that come into the body and optimizing the body's mechanism to getting rid of the ones that are there. I'm here today with Dr. Anthony Bazzan, the medical director of the Marcus Institute of Integrative Health at Jefferson, and he's also on our faculty in the Department of Integrative Medicine and Nutritional Sciences. He's an international expert in longevity medicine, functional medicine, and of course, integrative medicine. Dr. Bazzan, welcome.
Good morning, Dr. Monti. Thank you for having me. As usual, it's a pleasure.
Well, it's always a pleasure to speak with you, and I always learn something. I wanted to talk to you today about detox. It's something that we've talked about before, but there's just such interest in it. There's also a lot of things out there in social media and other platforms where people take a detox tea or do this detox program. And so I thought it'd be helpful for us to just start off with, what are people detoxing and how do they know they might need to detox?
Yes, it's a big topic, and which should define it. So biologically speaking, living organisms try to keep things clean. Cells, even single cells, have ways to get rid of waste, which happens in the business of life. It's inevitable. So if not only single cells can do that, imagine an organism like a human body, where cells group into organs, and all of our organs detox. Of course, we have the detox heroes, like the liver. He's the number one. We have the kidneys and all that, but the lungs do that. The brain does that. So it's important to understand that up to 75% of the work of the liver is to, so quote unquote, detox.
So we're detoxing all the time.
Yes. What does that mean? That toxins are handled, metabolized, and removed in order to keep order, so to speak, because without order, you have disease.
And by toxins, we mean that those substances from the environment or foods that we eat or other things that we're exposed to that really aren't good for the body and need to be removed from it?
Yes. So a toxin is a substance which is noxious to us or to whatever living organism. So they can be exogenous, they can be coming from the outside. That could be poisons, pollution, plastics. They can also be endogenous. I mean, why do we have to go to the bathroom during the day is because we create substances.
So like end products of metabolism are toxins that need to be removed as well. This is why we excrete them in different ways, including our sweat.
Yes, exactly. And so all this is made by the body automatically. And the healthier is the body, the better the process happens. And the healthier the person stays. Now, sometimes the problem comes when either the toxins, or it can all be together, the toxins are overwhelming.
Because there's just too many. You're exposed to too many for whatever reason.
Especially combined when the ability to detox diminishes for whatever reason. Bad nutrition. We can certainly go into that. I would like to do that. Aging, inflammation, disease. These are all things that diminish the ability of the body to do its proper cleanup, call it, job. And that's coupled with an increase in toxins. Well, that's when people, we say, need to detox. How do you know? There could be all kinds of symptoms. One would be chronic fatigue, brain fog, the feeling that you're behind, the feeling that something's happening inside your body, you don't feel healthy. It could be more infections. It could be more viral episodes.
More susceptibility to things.
Right. It could be changes in the mood. It could be irritation or, these are all things that show up like that because there's only so many ways the body can say, I'm not happy.
So when toxins aren't cleared sufficiently, either because there's too many of them or our natural processes are impaired from aging, inflammation, disease, other types of problems and issues, then that's when people will notice some of these symptoms from toxic buildup, really.
It's important to understand that because it tells you what you should do next. Now, even before we get to that stage, there are things that people can do. And we have about 8 points that we would like to discuss on about what a person should keep in mind in order to, let's say, be the best you can be when it comes to keeping yourselves detoxified.
So these, Dr. Bazzan, are your 8 things that you have people focus on so that they're optimally detoxing in as natural of a way as possible.
Yes. The number 1 is diet. Diet can be advantageous for the person, but it can also be damaging. So it's important to understand that your diet should be wholesome.
So basically what you're saying is you can either have a diet that increases toxins or one that helps you get rid of them.
Yes. And we can go into that later, into the biochemistry of that. But it's extremely important that and especially we have now seen the advent of so-called plant-based diets, especially the Mediterranean diet has acquired worldwide status. And a big part of that, the reason for that is that the plants have compounds that enhance the ability of us, the animal. So the plant kingdom, which was here 2 billion years before we came, was getting ready for us, if you will. And if we take advantage of what they have prepared for us, then we detox better and our health is better. So on the other side of that coin, unfortunately, is the diet that is damaging to us. And it is now all over, the media, this concept of ultra-processed foods that we have seen create havoc in the Western world, and especially in our country. So knowing what to eat and making the right choices is extremely important.
So the plants that grow on the planet, for the most part, have properties, many good properties, one of them helping with the detoxification process in the body. And those ultra-processed foods actually are the toxins.
As a curiosity, when we talk about cancers of women, we have seen that there are certain types of estrogen that are present inside a woman's body that are favoring the growth of cancer. About 33 million years ago, nature created the brassica family, which is the broccoli family. And the broccoli family detoxifies the estrogen that wants to give you cancer, and it turns it back into estrogen, which is safe. Mm-hmm. So this was looking 33 million years ahead.
That's why we know diet is so important for cancer risk.
Concept number 2, hydration. Extremely important. Water is an indispensable component of detoxification. It's needed, dehydration is the enemy. And that goes, again, like we said before, from single cells to organs. Liver, kidney is what the kidney lives off. You need hydration. So in terms of quarts or liters, which is about the same, healthy people should drink maybe at least 2 quarts a day of, pure, clean water in order to facilitate detoxification.
Are there any telltale signs that people aren't getting enough hydration or maybe even too much?
For too much, it really takes a lot of water. It happens, but you're talking maybe more than a gallon a day in order for a normal person to upset the kidney's ability to handle water, which is very jealously guarded by the body. As far as dehydration, I think that's extremely common. That's called the unfavorable diet is high in salt. And that requires more water, and many times people end up being subliminally dehydrated without realizing.
I know some people focus on the quality or color of the urine to help determine hydration status. Do you think there's anything to that?
There is in a way, because when you go to bed at night, then you concentrate urine. And that's why it's yellow in the morning, irregardless of taking vitamins. So if you don't take any vitamins, you are supposed to have a yellow urine in the morning after you slept, because during the night, the kidney concentrates the urine. Then you go out and you start drinking water, drinking your thing, and then your urine should become color of the water, which is what we clinically advise people. Drink enough so that when you urinate, it looks like water.
So either a very pale yellow to clear.
To clear, yes. Yeah. That is a good advice. Point number 3 will be, what do you want to ditch?
Get rid of.
Yes.
Okay.
And you know what number 1 is? Alcohol.
Ah.
Yes. And that is very dehydrating. Speaking about the water we were just talking about, but it's also a toxin. Mm-hmm. It's a toxin across the board. Alcohol is a neurological toxin. It's a bone marrow toxin. It's a liver toxin. So in moderation is something that, can be discussed, but abuse is very damaging. It helps compromise the detoxification functions of the body.
Let me ask you something a little bit controversial about alcohol that I get asked by my patients all the time. So we know it's a neurotoxin. The FDA has been clear that it increases cancer risk. And so we know that alcohol is problematic. And yet there is some data, such as in the MIND diet for cognitive decline, where alcohol consumption to a minimal, moderate degree is permitted. Any thoughts on this?
Yes, and when you look at all the studies and the counter arguments of all these studies, maybe the best will be the moderate consumption of good quality wine, because super alcoholic drinks are clearly too much. Alcohol from hops, beer, doesn't seem to have the same benefits of alcohol from the vine, from grapes, because of tannins, because of proanthocyanidins, so-called. So there is a little bit of truth to that. And of course, always to remember that the liver of a woman is 2/3 of the liver of a man. So for women, the amount becomes even smaller,
I see.
Generally speaking.
So I generally tell my patients a glass of wine here or there, but not more.
Here or there, yes. We have the same conversation, as I say, probably, if you can limit that to the weekend and sort of, psychologically reward yourself in the weekend with a little bit, that's probably the way to go. Another thing we want to remove is the caffeine.
Caffeine?
Yes.
Uh-oh, there's going to be a lot of people upset to hear that.
Yes. But depending on how you were made by your parents in your liver detoxification pathways that we will go in later, caffeine could be a friend, but it could also be a problem. And so if someone finds themselves into a situation where their quality of life isn't ideal and they feel that they're not right, this is something that should be considered. And an elimination trial could be a good idea to see what the reactions are. Of course, there's all kinds of details into how you stop caffeine and what happens when you do and all that, but it's something that should be kept in mind and discussed.
For some people, is a small amount of caffeine okay, or do you really advocate caffeine-free?
No, I advocate one-by-one situation. In other words, if you are coming into me happy, and you're happy, and medically in my investigation as a physician, I see that all your parameters are good, your blood fine's good, and I consider you a healthy person. You could say you are getting away with it happily, then why? Then there's no issue. But of course, if you come in with problems and issues and things,
one of your problems could be caffeine consumption.
Could be added.
Yeah.
Could be something added that, might need to be reevaluated.
So Dr. Bazzan, when I talk about caffeine as a possible thing to eliminate based upon, sometimes I get the pushback of, well, aren't there these studies that show that coffee is protective or green tea is good for you and those things have caffeine in them?
Yes, that's all true. And this is why we go back to the concept of every different person has their different story. And part of our job is to find out what's the contribution of caffeine for that particular person. Is it an issue for you, or is it something that actually may be good? The next is going to be that we want to avoid, and that's the difficult one, because that's the chemicals in the food.
Like additives, dyes, those kinds of things that are in the ultra-processed foods that you were talking about.
And as we all know from the media and the news, this is actually a topic that is now being re-examined in our country. And I think that can come soon enough. This ties into what is that we can do to overcome that, which the number one is, again, to have a wholesome diet to favor detoxification.
Okay, so just to summarize, the three things that people should be thinking about eliminating or significantly reducing, depending upon the situation, would be alcohol, caffeine, and the food additives that are in ultra-processed foods.
Point number 4 is exercise.
Yeah.
We are big fans of exercise. Any kind of exercise will be favorable to the function of detoxification. Aerobic will create more energy flow, more blood flow. The more blood flow, the more things will work. Resistance training.
And does that blood flow help with detoxification
absolutely,
then?
Absolutely. And then we have resistance training, which is anti-inflammatory and increases metabolism and increases the ability of the body to perform. One thing to remember also that is many times forgotten is the concept of the lymphatic system. When you look at the anatomy, you see a nerve bundle. Right next to that will be an artery. Right next to that will be a vein. And then there's the Cinderella, the poor lymphatic system, which is basically there across the body. It has the same mileage that the vascular system has, which is incredible, but nobody talks about. And exercise is extremely important to energize the lymphatic system because that's where a lot of the physical toxins get channeled and then eventually eliminated.
So the lymphatic system is a big detoxifier.
Very much so. And that's what gets activated with exercise. And then, of course, there are modalities like lymphatic massage, lymphatic drainage. You hear that, in a lot. But the number one is if you can do it for yourself first through exercise, that's certainly advisable. Point number 5 is a really big one: sleep.
Sleep.
It is known that how the brain detoxes is through sleep. Just think of that for a second. But what happens is this: we have, I call them crews of enzymes. What do enzymes do? They facilitate things. Suppose you don't have an enzyme and you want to go from Philadelphia to Los Angeles. It'll take you 3 months. Suppose you want to do the same thing with an enzyme, it'll take you 7 hours. Enzymes are incredible for health, speed of reactions, youth. So the more enzymes are functioning, the better off you are. So the system is organized like this. You have an enzyme crew during the day, and you have an enzyme crew during the night.
This is in the brain.
This is in the whole body.
In the whole body, yeah. Including the brain.
Including the brain. So this is extremely important. We have this conversation with the patients all the time. It says, suppose you ate a supplement with breakfast, that will help you go through your day, but it won't heal you because the enzymes to heal you are not there. You are now fighting your day. Maybe an easy day, maybe a terrible day. But what's happening is that the enzyme crew is the day crew. And that allows you to go through your life. When you go to bed at night, the night crew comes out and the day crew goes to sleep. The night enzyme crew.
And so the day crew of the enzymatic activity in the body.
Just
okay.
And I call it the rescue crew. The rebuilder crew comes out and that heals the body, heals the structures. So a supplement, the same supplement taken in the morning has a different effect in the body than if it's taken at night.
Because of the different enzymes that are going on in the body in the daytime versus when you're sleeping.
Yes. For instance, during the night, if you took, say, omega-3 fatty acids, now they will get incorporated into the membranes of the cells of your body, something that doesn't really happen during the day.
What are they doing during the day?
Most of that, they just are used for energy.
Which is important too.
It is very well known that sleep deprivation is a problem. People's lifespan shortens, they get sick, and if they stay up long enough, they die. So we all know sleep is very important, but now we're focusing on the fact that a lot of the detoxification and a lot of the rebuilding of body structures happens while you sleep, and this is why it's so important.
So does this inform the kinds of foods or even supplements people should take as it's close to bedtime?
Yes. So, for instance, an energy providing supplement like a B complex would preferably be taken in the morning when you want to have the energy to go through the day, as opposed to take it before you go to bed, because that might interfere with your sleep.
And I guess that's why magnesium is sometimes better to take in the evening.
Yes. Now, there are many magnesiums.
Right.
For many different reasons, but that magnesium for the evening is the one that comes down the membranes of the neurological cells, and there's a calming effect. Going back to macronutrition and tying the diet to the night and day detoxification scenario, it is advisable to have a light dinner. Mm-hmm. Because that doesn't overload the system. Most people are very aware of the fact that if they overeat for dinner or even later and use alcohol, for instance, in the evening, their night detoxification process is going to be a lot more laborious and a lot more less efficient. Mm-hmm. So the advice is always stay light for dinner and do not drink alcohol after a certain time.
Are there certain types of foods that are best to have in the evening to help not just with digestion, but again, the overall detoxification that people are looking for?
So in the evening, the ideal would be to have vegetables lightly cooked. Okay. And especially the broccoli family again, because it clearly helps detoxification processes. Point number 6 is, if at all possible, practice relaxation techniques. And those have become famous and very popular in the last few decades, ranging from yoga, from meditation, prayer, mindfulness.
So we hear a lot about these types of things for mind-body health, for stress reduction. How do they help with detox?
Because they increase the ability of the body to perform the detoxification actions.
And is that through the sympathetic nervous system?
Vagus, sympathetic, parasympathetic more, especially at night. The vagus is called vagus because it goes everywhere. And that's another resuscitation of the vagus nerve now in medicine after many years. So all these things favor the ability of the body to perform at a higher level of detoxification. In other words, you're getting out of the way. You're helping instead of obstructing. Point number 7, we should call electronic detoxification. It is now clear that the advent of electromagnetic frequency pollution computers, iPads, cell phones have created a situation of suboptimal brain function and suboptimal ability of the brain to detox. It's kind of the opposite of when you go to sleep.
So what do you recommend people do? Have a certain period of time before they go to bed where there's no devices, or they take breaks throughout the day, or both?
In a practical, everyday way that a person can integrate in their life is to limit the usage of these electronic technology in the evenings. There should be a cutoff time. There should be, in my opinion, there should be no watching TV or the computer till you fall asleep. If you want to read, it should be a book, a true book on paper that you can read through and then fall asleep. Many times, if I want to fall asleep, I'll take a paper copy of a biochemistry article, and then it'll help me very quickly to go to sleep.
So if we had an ideal that we were going to work towards for our optimal detoxification and this electronic detoxification, how long before sleep would we say, okay, we're cutting off the electronic outside world?
Probably at least 3 hours.
3 hours. Okay.
And then everyone will do the best they can. But at least if they have the concept that this is something desirable that should be introduced in your daily routine, that will be a major step ahead.
I do notice that even if I do it an hour, hour and a half before bed, that makes a big difference than if I don't do it at all. And I get 3 would be the ideal.
Yes. Anything you can do in that department will be helpful. So number 8 would be personal care products. And this would refer to hair care, shampoos, soaps, deodorants, skincare products that might contain chemicals that are noxious. One example will be BPA. And happily now, a lot of products make a point to tell you that there is no BPA in their product.
I've been noticing that more and more in the labeling. So that's something people really should be paying attention to. So Dr. Bazzan, that's a lot to keep in mind about detox, but also a lot of it is intuitive and makes a lot of sense. So thanks so much for discussing this important topic with us today. I always learn something when we talk.
Thank you so much. My honor and pleasure.